your girl Henny. If you are new here, please be sure to like, comment, and of course, subscribe to the channel. Today has been a day. It was long. It was drawn out. It was madness. Okay, there was madness inside the courtroom. There was madness outside the courtroom. It was madness everywhere. But today was about bribery and following money in the court. Okay, so as I explained to y'all earlier, we had Eddie Garcia come up on the stand. Eddie Garcia was a security guard to the Intercontinental Hotel. Okay, and he spoke about bribery. I already told y'all how Brian Steele dropped the ball. I don't know. I feel like he dropped the ball. Maybe some people feel like he didn't, but I feel like by him introducing that NDA, by him getting up on cross and saying, "Oh well, you ended up getting double than what you expected from Mr. Combs." That to me was admitting the bribery. But this afternoon, we had Derrick Ferguson up on the witness stand to close out for the day. Now, I'm going to tell you, this is not the exciting part. Okay. The exciting part of this may come tomorrow because Mia is going to be testifying tomorrow. Now, I told y'all that because there were YouTubers who disclosed Mia's true identity, that there was some trouble within the courts. Now, I don't know if they caught up with everybody, and I've been minding my business because over here we have not disclosed the identity of who Mia is, and we're not going to disclose that information. Moderators, if anybody says her name in the chat, please boot them out. If anybody says who the content creators are, who have said her name, please boot them out. We are not getting in that. No, Mia is not testifying again. Jane Doe is testifying, okay? Now, I thought that Jane Doe was Diddy's ex-girlfriend, Gina. But it turns out that that is not her. Gina is not coming, okay? That's what Agnafilo said. He said, she's not coming, okay? Donaldson has said, she's not coming. Mind you, this is a prosecution witness that they're saying is not coming. Anyway... So, Jane Doe will testify tomorrow, according to what I understand. If things change, then they will change, all right? But we're going to find out who Gina is. As I told y'all earlier, the government said that she was being flued out internationally, all right? And if she's been dealing with Diddy, this ain't her first time being flued out internationally. Yeah, I'm saying. But Derrick Ferguson. Okay, let me put y'all down for a second so I can get my tripod up because I am late coming out with the update, and I know that people are everywhere and all of us are live at the same time, and I really try to avoid being live when everyone else is live. Kind of try to come on and do my own little 1-2 dance, my own little thug thizzle. But now let's get into it because Derrick Ferguson came onto the stand as a prosecution witness. He was testifying to Combs Enterprise, Bad Boy Entertainment. He was listing the companies that he was there for. He started off as the CFO, which is the Chief Financial Officer. Then he ended up becoming a COO. He talked about Revolt Films. He talked about Bad Boy Records, Bad Boy Films. He talked about a little bit about the Diageo deal as well. Now, what I am going to do when I get back to where I need to get back to, I am going to run a replay of my coverage of the Diageo case because there were a lot of questions that were being asked, and I was sitting there like, one question in particular was when they were asking about the reasons why Diddy and Diageo were having issues. And the reason why Diddy and Diageo were having issues, if you've watched the video, then you already know, or if you've been keeping up with the case, you know that it's because Diddy cited Diageo for racism, saying that they were only distributing Ciroc and distributing De Leon tequila in the urban sectors only, and they weren't really expanding his market. And that was in the case, all right? There was a lot of stuff that was redacted in that, and Henny Legal was able to unredact the documents, okay? Now, that came up, and I don't know why, but the prosecution was not trying to have that stuff come into play. I guess they didn't want no smoke with Diageo either. Things that make you go, But Derrick spent the day, the afternoon. I did, let me get my other phone because I did spend some of his testimony still on live with you guys as we were having our lunchtime update because your girl was hungry. Your girl was bored out of her damn mind. I'm not going to lie to you. I was bored out of my damn mind. This is not the exciting part, you guys, but I promise you that there is Henny here. All right. So let's go to where we can go to get all of that. They petty petty, they big petty, they huge petty, they gigantic petty. All right, hold on one second. You know what, Anthony? Nasty work. Yeah, y'all double tap the screen. Come on, y'all double tap the screen, 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 double tap the screen. All right. Let me pull this up for you guys. Let me pull this up for you guys so that you guys can get all of the hot Henny. So when I walked into the court, the prosecution was resting their case when it came down to Derrick Ferguson. Y'all ready? I was trying to wait for more people to come in, but I don't know what's going on. Numbers are sucking again. I think it's because I started introducing the vertical and the horizontal lives. Henny, don't give up. Nothing until they get the likes up. Well, what am I supposed to do in the meantime, Star? I don't necessarily want to be down here all day either. If I say it, they might come, though. Oh, I see what you're saying. Can y'all please double tap that screen? Get them likes up because them likes are not looking like you guys love Henny. It's not looking like y'all want the Henny. Thank you, Nova. What's up, Nikki? What's popping, everybody? Can y'all get them likes up? Can we at least get the likes up to 60 or something? I'm sitting out here. I have taken off my shirt. I have the sun glowing all over my body. No Diddy. No Diddy, okay? The skin is healthy and shiny. No Diddy. No, it's just the one bar right now. I'm not doing the 2-bar thing. I don't think I want to do the 2 bars again, but I do want to introduce the horizontal lives one more time. Hey, Heidi. Thank you. All right, you guys. So let's get into it. So when we came back from lunch, they started asking Derrick some good questions. Okay, so they asked Derrick before the break. They were discussing about the bank records, right? They asked what a 207 Anderson LLC was, and Ferguson said that Mr. Combs, which is Diddy, that's his property in Alpine, New Jersey, because Diddy puts his homes in LLCs. Now, Ferguson testified to the fact that putting homes in LLCs is not something that is uncommon. It is something that a lot of people do. It's for tax reasons, for protection reasons. A lot of celebrities put their homes under an LLC. And I believe that that's a good idea. Okay. You can put your home underneath a 501c3 nonprofit. Why can't you put it underneath the LLC? But each home had its own LLC that it was connected to. Okay. He asked for they gave him the bill. So then he was asked what the international transfers were, and Derrick said there was $190,000 and a $575,000 and a $100,000 transfer in December of 2011. And when Derrick was asked who it was that decided to initiate the internal transfer, Derrick said it was the comptroller who did that, because there was a whole financial branch to Diddy's empire where these people sat and crunched the numbers for him. Okay. He does not remember who it was. And then there was an Alfred transfer that went to Cassandra Ventura, and it was for $20,000. And they had one coming in from Roderick for $20,000. So within those financial records, you actually do see where Cassie's mom sent the $20,000, regardless of the fact of whether it was sent back, because that's what people are going to say. Well, it shows that Diddy sent the money back. Regardless of whether he sent the money back or not, it was initiated, okay? This was a bribery payment. Do you understand? Today was about bribery and following the money. So what have we learned today? We have learned that there was $100,000 paid for the Intercontinental video to be erased from the hotel's database, and for the only copy, so he thought, to be placed on a USB drive and given to him. And it cost him $100,000, and he made them sign NDAs and took photographs of their licenses to keep them quiet. That is bribery. That is coercion. That is obstruction of justice. You could go as far as to say that that is also witness tampering. Baby, if you were looking for the RICO been here. But now we are establishing enterprise, because as I told you before, we already spoke about how Eddie Garcia testified to the fact that when he went to go give Diddy the USB drive and to take the $100,000 from him, that he testified that his security was there, KK was there, his personal assistants were there, you had chefs there, he had employees there at the house, okay? And KK is the one who was initiating all of this stuff, okay? All right. So, and then we have the testimony that came from Cassie's mom that said that, he told her, send me $20,000 or else I'm going to drop your daughter's leak the freak off videos. And Sandra Ventura took a loan against her home, sent him the $20,000, and then it was sent back to her. It doesn't matter if it was sent back to her. It's the fact that there was extortion that was involved in all of this. Okay. So that was proven as well. They asked him, he was the CFO. He was in the CFO position until 2012. Then he became the chief growth officer for Revolt Media and TV. After he left, he didn't communicate with Combs. He said, with Diddy, he said he texted him in 2024. He doesn't remember the day. And then he showed him. And then she had nothing further. Okay, so that's what I have right now. I will get more for you guys because I am on the hunt for the transcripts, baby, because we are going to get the transcripts from yesterday and we are going to get the transcripts from today because, baby, I have to give you the Mia T, because once again, that whole Mia testimony has been screwed up and misconstrued. People are actually like out here telling half-truths. That's what we're going to call it. They're telling half-truths, all right? So when Agnifilo gets on the stage, or Agnifilo, I believe is how you say his name. I'm not 100% sure. We've always struggled with this. Yes, they only need 2 to convict of RICO. They only need 2. All right. Now, when he got on the stand, let me get my notebook. Let me get my notebook. Thank you. Now, if you were watching my transcript read that I gave last night in the beginning half of Mia versus Brian Steele, you see that it was nothing like what a lot of these people are out here saying. That's why I said there's a lot of fluff and buffer that's going on right now. So they showed a leadership chart. This is how they started out. Okay, so Agnifilo was asking about Revolt TV. He was asking him about HR. So he was trying to get an answer as to which businesses were solely owned by Diddy, but we never got a direct answer to that. The only thing that he could say was Bad Boy was established in 1993, but Bad Boy Records was established in 1996, and it was partnered with Arista. But here's what people may not have known. Not only was it partnered with Arista, there's a questionable partnership that happened with Epic. He was definitely partnered with Interscope, Arista, Rhino is questionable, Universal, and Warner Music. Okay, these are the music companies that partnered with Bad Boy Records for distribution deals. Okay, And he verified that a distribution deal was different from a joint venture deal. So when there was a joint venture deal, the joint ventured party more than likely was the one who was going to take care of the books. They were the ones that were in possession of the books, because that was something else that came up about the tax returns. Okay. So they were asking him, like, okay, well, when it comes down to joint ventures, who oversees those books? Is it Diddy, is it Bad Boy that oversaw it, or Combs Enterprises, or was it the other entity, or was it open? It was open. However, he said a lot of the times those books remained with the person who they did the joint venture with and weren't necessarily over Bad Boy. This guy, Derrick, who was testifying, was also over all of Diddy's tax returns. He was taking care of Diddy's business relationship as far as his finances, and he was also taking care of Diddy's personal finances too. So that means that he was seeing everything. There were several businesses that were put in Janice Combs' name. All right. We did talk about one of them earlier, but two more came out as well. Let me see if I can get to those businesses in my notes, because I know I wrote those down. I made sure I wrote those down because I knew that that was something that you guys were going to ask me about the businesses that had her name on it. Hold on, y'all. Hold on, because I have it. Okay, so it was Janice Combs Music, Janice Combs Publishing, Janice Combs Management. Thank you for the super chat, Jamie. And earlier, we had the bank account that we were looking at that was for Janice Combs Music, okay? So those were the three businesses that were brought up that had her name on it. It's Janice Combs Music, Publishing, and Management. Then there was Bad Boy Touring Corp, which was basically a company that he created for when the artists are out on the road, that they would be able to pay. Now, there was a lot of talk about cash on hand. There was also talks about petty cash, all right? And they were saying that sometimes Diddy was getting his salary in pay. But let's get back to this. They spoke about Benny Medina being the president at Bad Boy at one point in time. But the president of Bad Boy has also been Jeff Burrows and Andre Harrell. When Diddy left Uptown, they said, this is what Derrick testified to. He said when Diddy left Uptown, he brought Andre Harrell with him and made him the president of Bad Boy, okay? And then at some point in time, we know that Harve Pierre became the president of Bad Boy as well. So Vashta, they asked about her because she was over HR. Now, if you remember, we were hearing a lot about Vashta because this was a person who took over for HR. Now, I didn't hear the name that Mia kept testifying to as being the person that was over HR that she was talking to. I can't remember if it was Vashta. I have to check. Let me see. Let me see if I can pull that real quick for y'all to see if that's who she was talking about, that she reported to Vashta. But it was very important to establish who was in control of HR at the time, because remember, Mia was saying that she was in communications with the person who was in HR, and the person who was over human resources was the person who would advise as to what to do. They knew about stuff that was going on, and they were helping to cover up things, okay? Now, one of the things that I do want to get into is that Derrick said that from 1998 to 2007, human resources was ran like any other human resource department was. And he made a note to say that they were following the regular HR department laws that they were supposed to follow by. But I was curious as to why he went there. But unfortunately, Agnifilo did not go any further with that. And that's something that I felt like he should have closed the loop on. Like, you opened the door to that question and then you just left it dangling in the air. And honestly, you guys, I know you're probably hearing this elsewhere, but that is something that keeps continually happening, where he opens a door, anybody, all of them, they open a door and then they don't close it. So he did not close the loop on that one. They moved on instead to Combs Wine and Spirits. And this is where Diageo came into play as well. They were asking, was this the deal? Was this the company that Diageo had partnered with, Combs Wines and Spirits? And at first, it was not the company that they originally partnered with. Originally, they partnered with Combs Enterprises, and Derrick was involved in the negotiations with Diageo, and Diddy was in charge of marketing and product. So that's what he was to do. Diddy was hired. I told y'all that, but that came from the lawsuit, if you guys watched the lawsuit, if y'all followed anything about the lawsuit, then y'all know that we've already talked about how Diddy was brought on, that Ciroc was a brand that was there with Diageo, and it was a dying brand. It wasn't doing anything. It was just sitting on the shelf. It wasn't bringing in much revenue. And then when Diddy came into play, he started marketing that to the urban community. Well, Diageo ended up locking him in that urban distribution and would not allow him outside of that. So he was marketing to the hip hop community. He was marketing to the melanated community. And so Diageo was trying to keep him locked in with the urban community. And Diddy wanted out. He wasn't having it. All right. So Agnifilo kept trying to get like to where the problems, when the problems started. But there kept being objections when they were bringing up certain things. And I think that's because the defense did not want, the prosecution did not want to open the door to the Diageo conversation. But if we're going to put on our tinfoil kufi hats and we're going to be conspiracy theorists, it could also be because there's a tie somewhere. I don't know. I'm just saying. But they didn't want to get into the Diageo thing. So Agnifilo asked the question of, after, as time went on, what issues did he see 4 to 5 years into the deal? So finally, he was able to get that question out. And so Derrick said that Diageo was not holding their end of the distribution. And again, like I said, they were keeping him locked into being a part of just the urban sector of the distribution map. Now, when it came to Revolt TV, that was actually a cable TV network, and Diddy won that partnership. There's only 5 people that were going to be picked to run with a cable network, and Diddy was one of them that was picked for that. But when Diddy picked that, it was one of his other businesses. I did not catch the name because it was said so fast, but it was one of his other businesses, Bad Boy Films, and then a company called Highbridge Corporation Management. Okay. They were trying to establish whether or not that company had been bought by JP Morgan Chase, but it was never established as to whether or not it was. Highbridge, though, did hold percentage of the seats. They held 40%, which means that they had majority say in anything that happened with that business. That meant that Diddy could not sell Revolt without going Revolt Films without them having a say so in it. He did not own the 40%. They held majority. Okay. So that made them the majority on the board. Okay. Then they went into showing these different charts, right? So they showed that in the Revolt chart, the CEO at that time, his name was Keith Conscales, I think. But there was a whole bunch of different people that were within the chief of operating office. They showed us who the CEO was, who was the operations manager, who was the COO. They went through a whole list, ads, like who was in charge of ads and sales, pricing and promotion, integrated marketing, distribution, production, creative production, and post-production. And Diddy was not listed in any of that. Then they went on to Combs Enterprise. And this is where it got really interesting. This was submitted under seal. Diddy is listed as the CEO. Brian Offit was listed as the COO. And then you had other people, and this was considered to be the leadership team, okay? Then you had Tony Abrams, who became the CFO when Derrick became the COO. And Derrick brought Tony into the business. Both of them spent time at Howard University. So when a position opened up at Bad Boy, Derrick brought Tony Abraham in. That's what his name is, Tony Abraham, okay? Then they got into the business credit cards, and this is where like things were starting to get a little shaky. They were talking about how if someone used the business credit card for personal stuff, that they had to go line for line through everybody's credit cards and weed out what was personal and what was business. For tax purposes, they had to do this. So they said that there was someone, Derrick said that there was someone that was in the finance office that would sit and do that they would go line for line and pick out what was personal, what was business, in order for them to be able able to do the taxes. But I really didn't understand where they were kind of going with this question, because they never asked if Diddy had any personal charges on his credit card. They never asked if they saw like hotel rooms for personal time on these credit cards. They never asked any of those questions. They just, again, left this one open-ended, and I felt like we were being led up to be let down when it came down to that part. And I don't know. Today was really a bad day for the defense, in my opinion, because they really left a lot open, okay? And that left the jury. If I was sitting in the jury pool, I would be sitting there like, well, dang, they just threw their own case today. What's going on, right? What the hell? Oh, my water spilled, because I'm like, all of a sudden I feel this wet. What is this wetness that is coming on my leg? Pause. All right, you guys. So they also asked him about the tax returns. Derrick said he signed off on the corporate tax returns for Diddy's businesses. He signed those he signed his personal and his business tax returns when he was in the position of the CFO. And then and there was a partnership both with Diddy's business and the joint ventures. And we were talking about that when there was a partnership, that the books would be maintained by the person who he had the joint venture with majority of the time. It was common for people in the entertainment industry to have, they asked him about assistants, like, you know, did he know about or have interactions with any of Diddy's assistants? And he said, you know, it was common for people in the entertainment business to have assistants. But he did say that some of these assistants, they were not paid because Derrick and Diddy were the only two that could sign off on checks for Bad Boy or for Combs Enterprises. Majority of the businesses that Diddy had, he and Derrick were the only ones that could sign checks. So Derrick was saying that there were some assistants there that he did not sign checks for. There was some off-the-books assistants out there. So there was some of them working off the books, honey, at Bad Boy. Now, when it came down to security, he did say that security played an important role in the business and that they were there to keep Diddy, you know, safe. So they were with him at all times. He didn't really have very much interaction with them. He did have interactions with Uncle Paulie, only because Uncle Paulie was the head of security. And so Uncle Paulie would come and sit down with him and talk to him about budgets for would come and sit down with him to talk about the budget for security. Wrenches, don't snipe anybody at this moment, please. We're trying to get the views up. But if they start getting disrespectful, put them out. But put a timeout on sniping out anyone that comes in here with the opposite opinion or any of that stuff. Just if they come in here disrespectful, put them out. But let's try to get the views up, get the people in here, because we down a little bit today. I don't know what's going on. But anyway. Now, the reason why they brought up security being with Diddy at all times and having to protect him at all times is because they were trying to establish, like trying to break down the enterprise and make it seem as though, okay, these guys were just security. So there's no way that they were involved in any type of enterprise, because we keep hearing the same names over and over again, right? We keep hearing D-Rock. We keep hearing Uncle Paulie. We keep hearing Roger Bonds. We keep hearing about Ruben. We keep hearing about them. And so with them, with KK, with all of them, it's starting to sound like that is the enterprise. We're not saying that the legitimate businesses are the enterprise. We're saying that these people were moving in the interest of the business and for him to protect him, right? Right. That's what the government is saying at this particular point in time. All right. But the prosecution, I mean, that's what the government is saying, but the defense is trying to hack away at that, right? They're trying to hack away at that by making it seem like, well, they're just doing their job being there. But when you have security going to go get an assistant because the assistant is deciding that they want to run away, or the assistant is out having fun with their friends, and you send security to go get them, that is no longer within the scope of business. When you have your security team taking your personal girlfriend to the hotel to hide her away because you have put hands, feet, and kneebones on her, and now she has bruising all over her body and cannot be seen by public, and you are stationing security there with her to make sure that she does not leave, then guess what? They are no longer moving as the security to protect him. They are now moving as the security to protect what is in the better interest of the business and for him. So that is where you come into play with showing all of this. When you have KK having photographs of these security guards' licenses that they just paid $100,000 to cover up an abuse video that was happening, guys, that is establishing enterprise. When she has the NDA in her phone, that these guys signed, she took the screenshots of it. That is establishing the enterprise, because that is not moving in a way that a normal business would move. This is moving in a way to protect him and for the greater good of him and the business. This is the enterprise. The enterprise is Diddy, it's KK, it's Roger Bonds, it's Uncle Paulie, it's Ruben, it's what's the other guy's name? I'm missing one. Uncle Paulie, Ruben, Roger Bonds, and D-Rock. Okay, all of these people, the assistants that were there, all the people, Vashta in HR, all these people who were helping him to cover up. Okay, Maze Millie, tell me one of the 35 predicate offenses of a RICO. If you can't tell me that, then you will be booted up out of here. How about that? Because I've got my snipers on standby. Trust me. Maze Millie, give me one of the 35 predicates of a RICO, and you can stay. And if you can't give me one of the 35 predicates of a RICO that apply to this case, you gotta go. How about that? Anyway, so this is why the defense decided to bring the security into it. But unfortunately, if there are people like me who have already gone looking and doing their due diligence, asking questions to the people, lady, you don't have a look. Answer me that. Answer the question. Nothing else that you say will get through if it's not an answer to what are one of the 35 predicate offenses of a RICO. If you can't answer that, sweetheart, time is ticking. Time is ticking. If you can't comment, you can't get it. Integrity, no integrity, no integrity. That's no integrity, no integrity, no integrity. No integrity has no integrity, no integrity, no integrity. Oh, guess what? Bye. Bye, A. You can go, because what you're trying to do is you're trying to start a beef, and that's not going to happen. All right, that's it, Maz Millie. Bye. Thank you for coming out. Thank you for coming out. Good night and God bless. Now you will talk to yourself. Anyway, back to the reporting that I was doing. So they have already established enterprise, period. The enterprise is established, all right? When you take the testimony of Cassie, you take the testimony of Capricorn Clark, you take the testimony of George Kaplan, you take the testimony of Daniel James, you take the testimony of Mia, you take all of that testimony and put it together, and you keep hearing the same names over and over again. Those are the people that you are looking at who are supposed to be a part of this enterprise. But a lot of these people have either taken plea agreements or they have immunity. George Kaplan testified to having immunity. There's a lot of people that have had immunity. Eddie Garcia was going to come in and plead the fifth. He said he wanted immunity before he came. And guess what? The government had to break down and give him immunity. Okay? So while y'all are asking why no one else is on this RICO, it's because they're getting immunity deals, you guys. They're getting plea agreements. The government, understand this, the government doesn't give a damn. The government doesn't give a damn. We saw that when we looked at the records for Monster. Monster was out here prostituting underage girls and got caught drug trafficking by the feds, and the feds are now using him as an informant. What? If they could take down a bigger fish, they're going to go for the bigger fish. That's how this goes, you guys. That's how this goes. Do they want Diddy's money? Abso-freaking-lutely, they want Diddy's money. Is this a humiliation ritual? Absolutely, it sure enough is. Do I think that Diageo may have played a hand in this? I absolutely do. But do I think that he has not done any of these crimes? No, I do not. I think he has. I think he has committed offenses. But I think what has happened is he pissed off the wrong people and they dropped a dime on him. That's what I believe. So if you want to know what my thoughts are, those are my thoughts. That's what I think, people. Ta-da! That's what I'm saying. So now, when they started talking about overseeing Diddy's personal finances, and then they went back into how the homes were in LLCs and the reasons why they were in LLCs. And then Agnifilo started asking questions. Did anyone ever not pay their taxes while you were there? There was an objection to that. Then he started getting into some of the taxes, and Derrick said that the taxes were done properly while he was there, that he would do everything that he could do to make sure that the company was financially appropriate. Now, when you're listening to the things that people say, you have to actually watch how they're saying it. So when he asked him that question, he said, while I was there, the taxes were done properly. And I would do everything that I could do to make sure that the business was financially appropriate. He emphasized certain things when he was saying them, okay? When they talked about cash on hand, they said that there were cash on hands to pay the artists, but that there were times that Diddy would be paid in cash, all right, from the cash on hands. And how they would do that, how they would keep track of the cash on hand, is that they would have the receipts. And in the receipt, you would have to say who you gave the money to, what the money was for. They would have to tell you what they spent the money on and what the net was, what they had when everything was done. That's what they would have to come back and they would have to give them. And then they would just replenish the petty cash from that. Okay. But it was never established whether or not Diddy got petty cash payments. It was never established as to why Diddy was getting paid cash. They never went into that stuff, you guys. So once again, this is another door that was left open where I was sitting there like, you showed us that he was paid in cash. Do y'all have the receipts that show what he said it was for? Do we have the amounts of what he was paid in cash? Like, what was the purpose of bringing all of this up is what I was trying to find out. But they asked, did you see anyone help Diddy commit crimes? He said no. Did you see anyone commit acts of violence? There was a pause. There was a pause before he said no. So when they asked the question, it went like this. Did you see anyone commit acts of violence in furtherance of the business? No. That's how it went. That's the pause in between. No. But when they asked him, did you see anyone commit crimes to help, help Diddy commit crimes? He was like, no. Did you see anyone commit acts of violence in furtherance of the business? No. Did you see anyone? Then they started asking about if they saw any threats of violence. There was a pause. Did you see anyone commit threats of violence in furtherance of the company? No. That's how that went. Did you see anyone use coercion? No. It's those pauses in between answering when his answers were quick. Those pauses are the things that I am paying attention to. And that's the thing that people are not telling y'all. It's not just what they say. It's how they say it. It's how they're moving when they say it. Do they shift in their seat before they say it? Do they move and shift their eyes when they say it? Now, I can't see the jury from where I am, but from where I'm sitting at, I can see that witness stand very clear. I can see clearly up there on that screen. And that's what he was doing. Okay. Then they said, did you see any oh, I'm sorry. When they asked about coercion, let me correct myself. When they asked him about coercion, Derrick was quiet. And he was like, um, can you explain the question to me? So he said, did you see anyone commit any physical, mental, or sexual harm to anyone? He says, no. He says, did you see anyone commit sex trafficking? There was an objection. So he didn't answer. And he said, any acts of prostitution? He said, no. But when it came to the acts of coercion, he said, no. Pause. So that's 3 times that he paused before he answered that raised my eyebrow like, oh, really? Okay. And I'm not spinning a narrative. I am telling you exactly how it went down. All right. So then they started asking him questions like, was working for Diddy hard? And he said it was hard, and it had its moments, but they were also building companies from the ground up. So, he went into what it took to actually build a company from the ground up. He said it was grueling hours. There was a lot of dedication. But he said due to Diddy's work ethic, the way that he worked, his drive, that he kept them motivated and kept them, pushing to get the job done. But the difference here is, and Agnifilo made sure that he said this in the end of all of this, they weren't with Diddy 24/7. They weren't on the road 24/7. They were not subjected to what the assistants were subjected to. They were not subjected to what security was subjected to. They were not subjected to what Cassie was subjected to. They were not subjected to any of that because they were in the office. They were out here on Broadway. Broadway is right up the street from here. They were out there. They were on Broadway when Diddy was in Miami, was in LA, when he was doing all of these acts. They were in New York working in the office, okay? So now, the surprising and the tee-hee-hee, the ho-ho that came out was that Diddy and someone else, I don't remember the name, but there's 2 people that are partnered. It's Diddy and someone else that partnered in the Harlem Prep Charter School that caters to at-risk youth from grades 6 to 12. And Derrick sits on the board of those schools, y'all. So he sits on the board of Diddy's schools. He has one flagship school that started in Harlem and another one that was in the Bronx. And guess what? Derrick is on the board. Okay. I marked it as red flag. And I'm going to show y'all in my notes. I put it right here in my notes. Red flag. Red flag. For me, that was a red flag because you're on his board and you're here. I get it that you were subpoenaed here and you didn't want to be here to testify, but here you are, okay? And it don't sound like you're helping Diddy's case any, right? So he said, this was where the tables turned. Are y'all ready? Because as soon as I wrote red flag, this happened. Pay attention. Pull in close because I want y'all to catch every bit of this Henny before I have to take my mic out and plug my battery in. Agnifilo says, do you think highly of Diddy? He got quiet. Did y'all hear me? Agnifilo asked Derrick, the guy who was on the board for Diddy's charter school, who used to be his CFO, who used to be his COO, do you think highly of Mr. Combs? That's what he did. That's what he did, okay? Now, I put in there that he got quiet. And then he says, I don't know how to answer that. You don't know how to answer if you think highly of the man whose school you sit on the board of, the man who gave you a job as a CFO in his company, the man who made you a COO, the man who you're sitting in court testifying right now about. You don't know how to answer that question? So then they go on to say and ask him, when and if there was any purpose, anything that had happened that would cause him not to think highly of Diddy, no answer. Quiet. Agnifilo said nothing further. Baby, baby, do, it's right here. Now on redirect, remember I told you that they brought out these charts showing who was the CEO of this and who was the CFO of that and who was this, and this, right? Well, because the defense opened the door to this evidence, the government came back and said, I want to show you a chart that the defense didn't show you. Baby, they opened up the chairman chart, and guess who the hell was on the chairman chart? And this is of Revolt Films. Honey, Diddy is the chairman. KK is right up under Diddy. You've got David Shirley. You've got Derrick Roche. You've got Paul Offit, which is Uncle Paulie. You've got Damien. You've got Mia. Mia is on the chart for Revolt Films. And when the defense decided to show us that evidence, they nice and politely skipped over the chairman's chart. But on the chairman's chart showed everybody that had been testified about in Mia's testimony. I'm trying to see what that chart be like so I can show y'all better than I can tell y'all. Akbar, baby, you are so far gone. The defense pulled out, let me pull these glasses up. The defense pulled out the charts to show everybody what all these other departments were. Showed us that Diddy was not on any of those departments. He was on one chart as the CEO, but it was not the chairman's chart that he showed. Hold on, because my glasses got stuck in my damn locks. He was on the CEO on one chart, but they never showed us the chairman's chart until the government got up there. And when the government got up there, that's where everybody that Mia had testified to was on the chairman's chart. Baby. The government turned to Derrick because they remember the defense asked all these questions. Have you ever seen this? And have you ever seen that? And have you ever seen anybody doing this in the greater good of the business? The government says to him that they asked him. They said, Derrick, you were asked, but they didn't call him Derrick, about abuse and violence. Where were you located? He said, New York City. Were you ever at Mr. Combs's house? No. Did you ever travel with him? No. Did you ever stay with him in a hotel? He said no. They said no further questions. Agnifilo gets up there and says, the government just asked you a question about if you were ever at his home or if you were ever at a hotel. But you weren't in any of those places, correct? Because the CFO gets to have a life and doesn't go to the hotel or the home. The government said objection. He said no further questions. What the fuck was that? Was that supposed to be helpful? To who? Because it for damn sure was not helpful to the defense. Today was a bad day. Today was a bad day for Uncle Diddy. Baby, today was a bad day for Uncle Diddy. Now the sound is about to change, you guys, because my phone is about to die. Oh, I saw the doggy and it kind of scared me a little bit. Honey, when I tell you that I was sitting there like, hold on, who is the defense working for today?